Hi, I'm Belinda Carley, the Director of the Institute of Personal Care Science, and today I'm going to talk you through silicons and their alternatives. Now, before I start looking at silicon alternatives, I do want to be really clear about silicons as a class of chemicals. First of all, they're highly diverse, and that's got to do with their structure. They can be manipulated, altered, just as much as you can do with hydrocarbon backbones that are present in plant oils, for example, to create all sorts of intermediaries and derivatives, which means we basically have a highly functional and adaptable material that we can shape and bend and turn into just about anything we need. Silicons are a fantastic material in cosmetic formulations for a number of reasons. First of all, they are derived from sand. There is a lot of chemical processing involved, but one of their main components is silica from sand. They also are vegan friendly. They're also hypoallergenic. They're also highly pure, colourless, odourless, and don't oxidize in formulas. They also have an amazing sensory feel, which is one of the most popular aspects to use them in a formulation. They also help wet out pigments. This means they help with the spreading of colour pigments and titanium dioxide and zinc oxide in sunscreens. They can make a product that feels pretty ordinary feel absolutely sensational because of their spreading and wetting character. They can decrease foam, or they can be manipulated to add to formulas to boost foam. Now, I want to again be really clear that there is not just one silicon that we're talking about here. We're talking about the entire class of silicon. So for example, there are volatile silicons. These are the silicons that get used in a lot of leave-on hair products. And we use them because they enable us to deliver other non-volatile materials to the hair, and then the volatile portion of the formula simply evaporates off with room temperature or body temperature, so we're left with a very weightless finish. Then of course we have our dimethicone class, and here it is. This beautifully clear, free-flowing liquid feels beautifully silky on application and has the same beautiful silky feel in a finished formula. Now, we have all sorts of dimethicones based on the molecular weight. We can have a really low molecular weight, which feels really light, spreads a long way, and then we can have a higher molecular weight that doesn't have the same spreading and feels a bit more cushiony. All silicons in general have that beautiful sensory feel, silky or cushiony. It's a delight to feel and experience in your products. There are also amidomethicones and amidomethicone blends. Now they generally look milky like this here, and these are little microemulsions of a silicon, amidomethicone, and we use these in formulas where they're predominantly water. So these get used a lot in shampoo or conditioner formulas. It helps us put what would normally be an immiscible substance into a majority water formulation. Because it comes like this as a microemulsion, it's easy to add to the formula and provide those silky, slippery benefits to hair shampoo and conditioning formulas. Now, there's misinformation out there that suggests that silicons will coat the hair and leave it feeling very heavy. That's not the case. As you can see, this material here doesn't coat anything. It feels beautifully soft and silky. But what you'd actually find is some of the deposition in those formulas comes from polymers or quaternary agents that are added to give some of that weighty effect. These materials can also have great anti-static benefits in hair formulations. So they don't weigh down the hair, they simply hold down the charge that causes a normally static effect. Next, we have silicon gels and silicon gums. Now you can see these are altered slightly to change their viscosity, and we can use them to boost viscosity in formulas and boost viscosity in oily gels. These particular gum materials have, as you can see, an instant blurring effect. So we use these in formulations to give an instant blurring effect to a finished product. And that's what makes a lot of product selfie ready. There are also loads of ethoxylated and propoxylated PEG and PPG silicone derivatives. Now these have been ethoxylated and propoxylated to make them more water loving. The amount of ethoxylation or propoxylation will make it either a water and oil emulsifier or an oil and water emulsifier, or can be manipulated in a number of other ways to add some extra functionality to a formula. These are your performance silicones, and these have been created to address formulation issues or to solve formulation issues to give consumers some functionality that doesn't normally occur. But I want to point out that vegetable oils get ethoxylated and propoxylated as well. So it's really just a way of ethoxylating or propoxylating one type of hydrocarbon chain compared to ethoxylating or propoxylating a plant oil hydrocarbon chain. The end result is a more water-loving oil, and we do this where we want the oil to be more water-loving for some other functional reason. Just like there's hundreds of these types of materials in the silicone family, there are also hundreds of these sorts of materials from the mineral oil and plant oil family as well. And finally, there are silicone film formers. Now, we see a lot of misinformation on the internet about silicones being non-breathable films. I want to point out that silicones, as the oil or emollient, are no more non-breathable films than any sort of plant oil. They're all oil emollient substances. It's just that silicones are one class of emollient substance and plant oils are another. Interestingly, plant oils are comedogenic. Most of them have a moderate to extreme comedogenicity profile, and you can watch my other video on this. You can also contact me for references to read it for yourself. Silicones, on the other hand, are not comedogenic, which proves that their film is very breathable as the oil. If you want a film forming silicone to help improve water or wear resistance of makeup or sunscreens, then that's again another member of the silicone family, and it's been created specifically to provide water and wear resistance. But guess what? We also do that with polyurethane and PVP polymers to make other products water resistant and wear resistant as well. But nobody seems to pick on those materials. They pick on the poor silicone family instead. Now recently, D4, D5 and D6 silicone cyclomethicone materials have been banned in the EU for suspect biodegradability issues. Now if you speak with a silicone manufacturer, they'll tell you that's not true. What I do want to explain today though is a little bit about the ridiculousness of that particular regulation. Basically, they are banning D4, D5, D6 in wash-off products where it's used at more than 1%. But we don't use these materials in wash-off products anyway. It makes no sense to use them in wash-off products. Because they're volatile, we don't need them in a wash-off product for sensory aspects because we're washing the product off. Instead, we use volatile materials in leave-on products, particularly styling products, heat protection, or just to make the hair feel anti-frizz and smoother. And they're in leave-on products, and they're perfectly acceptable to leave in leave-on formulas because they don't have this suspect biodegradability issue that the EU is concerned about. So really, we don't need to worry about that issue in a wash-off formula because they don't get used in wash-off formulas, because we don't need the volatility in a wash-off product like we might desire it in a leave-on product. As a class of chemicals, they are highly pure for the personal care industry. They're also guaranteed to be non-GMO and palm-free. As I mentioned earlier, they do have as one of their starting materials quartzite, silicon, sand. But it's interesting because people really readily believe that cocamidopropylbutane comes from coconuts. It actually goes through a lot of intermediary processing steps, and it often comes from palm oil just as much as coconut oil. So if you're going to believe that cocamidopropylbutane is natural, when it's not, then you might as well believe that silicon is just as natural. It's not, but it also has a starting natural material, just like cocamidopropyl betaine has a starting natural material. So if we want to compare naturalness, you can't accept that cocamidopropyl betaine is natural if you don't want to accept that silicons are also naturally derived substances. Somehow, the internet got hold of this misinformation and has absolutely blown it out of all proportion. So, just to recap, silicons are vegan, naturally GMO-free, palm-free, non-comedogenic, hypoallergenic. They can give a blurring effect. They provide moisture protective effects that are totally breathable. They provide transepidermal water loss protection like any other emollient. They are odorless, colourless with no oxidation issues. They provide no more oil deposition than any other oil unless you're purposely looking for a film former, but then they're providing a waterproofing benefit like any other waterproofing material, and they are no more occlusive than other oils. But consumers are looking for more natural materials. So I wanted to present you with a couple of natural alternatives to silicons. There are loads out there and there's more coming out all the time. So this is a conversation you're best to have with your raw material supplier. But let me introduce you to a few of my favorites that I've used and some that are newly launched on the market. First of all, there is Cetiol C5 and Cetiol CC by BASF. Now these are great spreading and wetting lipids. They feel great. There's some great silicone alternatives. There's Fluoromac 10 by Fluorotec. This is also great for pigment dispersion. It's also great in hair products to improve shine and reduce breakages. There is the MyGlyol range by IOI Oleo GmbH. They have their MyGlyol Coco 810. They have their MyGlyol TC7, which is palm-free if you're looking for a palm-free material. They have MyGlyol 8810, which is also a great spreading and wetting solvent for UV filters and colour pigments. There's Dermafil Sensolve by Dr. Straitmans. It's again great for pigment dispersion and UV filters. It's also great in hair products. It improves foam and shine and anti-static effects. Seppic has Emogreen L15 and L19. These have spontaneous spreading, so they're great in body care products where you want a product to spread a long way. L15 also provides great shine and strength in hair products, and they're very low viscosity substances. So they help reduce the viscosity of your formula if that's important to you. There's also Lipolami by Alban Muller. This one is a blend of esters from milk thistle oil, so it's got a great product story in a formulation. It decreases microfoam or a soapy effect in emulsion, so it's also great to help reduce excess white rub-in time. Now, one of my personal favourites is the Lexfil range. Now, this Lexfil range has numbers which match up to the Centipoise equivalent of dimethicone. So if you're looking for a drop-in replacement for a dimethicone in a formula, you can get the Lexfil equivalent and drop it straight into the formulation. I want to give a special mention to Lexfil D4, Lexfil D5, Lexfil Wow and Cetiol Ultimate, as well as Vegilite 1214 LC. These are all volatile materials, so they are your true cyclomethicone replacements in formulations to give you that volatility. That's that weightless solvent delivery that evaporates at room or body temperature. This is just a tip of the iceberg of both the silicon family and the silicon alternatives that are out there. What really matters is what's important to your consumer, but what we need to do as chemists and consumers is stop avoiding silicons thinking they're bad. They're not the bad guy. It should be clear by now that there's nothing wrong with silicons in a formula, as the internet would suggest. They are a highly functional and multifaceted family of emollients and derivatives that can provide incredible sensory and all sorts of functional benefits to a formula. We're seeing more and more silicon alternatives become available for consumers looking for green alternatives. But we also don't have the full range of functionality that we currently get from silicons and their derivatives. If you've got a formulation issue, you might find the solution is in the silicon family, and there's absolutely no reason to avoid them. Please share this with any consumers or friends or colleagues that might have concerns over silicons, or chemists who are looking for silicon alternatives and the types of silicon materials they might need to replace. By not avoiding silicons, we actually open our formulas to a world of possibilities, combining the best of silicons and other materials to get amazing functionality and innovation in finished products. I hope you found this video informative and the truth about silicon materials. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content and leave any questions or comments below. Make sure you subscribe to get notifications about all our videos. I look forward to bringing you some great formulations with silicons and without in the future. Happy formulating!